Hi, welcome to another video. This is the Dell All-in-one 9010 and these are all-in-one PC monitors, and they need a bit of fixing. The last video I checked them all and they all work, but there's a few issues. Some of them have a password in the BIOS that stops you from changing settings. Some stop you from going into the BIOS. And we're going to take this apart and see what we can do. So let's have a look. System information. This is a 4 GB system with an i5-3470S. And the S means that it's lower power than the non-S version. There's also a T version that is even lower power and probably slower clock speeds, but we can change these settings. Let me check the security. Let's see if there's any passwords. So there's no passwords on this one, but so that's good. But I'll show you what's inside and we can have a look and see what we would do if there was a password. So why don't I just set a password here actually, and we can clear it. My cat is meowing quite a lot. So this will restrict changes to settings and setup, restrict boot devices and things like that. So we'll set a password, we'll exit, we'll go back into the BIOS and I'll show you what's happened. So here we are, we've got boot sequence that's grayed out, security, admin password. So we can't change this because it's been locked because we put a password in. If we know the password, we can unlock it and put the password in. But if we don't know the password, then we can reset it physically by taking this apart. I'll show you how we take this system apart. So first we'll spin it around to get to the back. There is a cover that goes on here. So this is a cover that would click into place and you pull that off. It's got 4 tabs there. So that's been removed. This would have had 4 screws here for the stand. Once those are undone, I'll unplug these things so they don't get in the way, and then it can be lifted away from the stand. So move the stand out of the way, and then the next thing we need to do is have a look at the bottom. And here we've got 4 screws which use a Phillips. So we'll just undo these and it won't take too long. And I'm just using a random box to hold it up so that we can see what's going on. Best thing is to not lose these screws. Let's have a look what they look like. Whoops. And then once we've undone these screws, this will actually all just pull off basically. It kind of is clipped into place. Just move it slightly. And we can use something like this to separate the 2 parts. it's quite easy actually to lift it off. So this whole back section comes off, and the other side looks like this. Put that to one side and we get to the heart of the system. So let me lift this up, and what we've actually got here is, this is the main input output section, power cable and video and HDMI out, as well as all the USB, keyboard and mouse, network and sound. And this bit here is a Dell 80 Plus gold power supply, this bit here, and this is the fan for the power supply that blows air that way. This is the fan for the CPU heatsink, which is here, and this bit here is a cage that the 3.5-inch hard disk drive lives in. This is the optical drive, and we've got controls on the left here, and at the bottom these speakers, and these have little wires that go along here and plug into the board here. But you don't actually have to take apart this whole back to get to perhaps the most useful bits. So there's this little metal tray here. Under here we've got access to the two RAM slots, and this uses laptop RAM, and this is DDR3, so 4 gig PCL PC3, and that is L, low power. There you go, 12800. So I can put another stick in to upgrade this to 8 gig, and then it should run in dual channel. And wait for this, I'll just spin it around. Over here we've got the chassis intrusion detection, and then in here we have got CMOS clear, but we've also got password clear. So we are able to take this off, clear the CMOS, and I'll go over clearing the password in more detail at the end of the video. So those are the two useful things. There's also PCI 1X mini card slot here. So I'll actually take this back panel off to show you what we've actually got. If if you're looking to change the thermal paste on the heatsink, or change the drive in it, or any of these other things, down here there are actually Wi-Fi antenna cables, but they're not plugged in because there's no Wi-Fi card here, but you could add a Wi-Fi card and plug these into it. So let's show you this. So the first thing to do is the hard drive cage, which is really chunky because it's also supporting the stand, and there's quite a lot of screws to get into this system once you've taken the back off, and some of these are quite chunky screws. Let's see, do I need to take this one? Yeah. Okay, there's another bunch of screws at the back here, about 3 more. And there's M4, which are these bigger ones, and there's M3 here. So that is the bracket at the back for the stand, and then we've got a hard drive cage here, and you will note that a couple of cables run across it to the optical drive, and this is optical drive connection is like this, so it's not your standard, well that's your standard SATA on that side, but this isn't your standard SATA power. that you would normally have for normal SATA drives. So you might need an adapter if you wanted to replace this perhaps with another SATA drive, if you wanted to add more storage there. And that sort of slots into this sort of little bracket here. And then this is the hard drive cage, but it's a 3.5 inch hard drive cage. So if you're going to put a 2.5 inch SSD drive, which is what I plan to do, then it'll kind of just float in there, I suppose. And it just slides forwards. You can take that out and then remove these cables, and here you can see the sort of usual SATA connector for SATA drives. Okay, so you don't really, I don't think you need to take this out to take this back plate off. So we can just put that back there so that these cables can go back in the right place. And for this, there's probably not too many screws, but let's just start. And I'll show you what's underneath. There you go, there was about 4 screws for that, and that tray just comes off. There's a part number if you need it, and we have this kind of sort of laptop looking motherboard, CMOS battery, speaker connectors, and this is the mini PCIe 1X card, so it could have a Wi-Fi card here. And under this bit, I think you've got the connector for the screen, power, and some of these other connectors going across here for your SATA and so forth. And this is the heatsink that comes along here. So we may as well see how easy it is to replace the thermal paste. You might want to upgrade the processor in here, but it'd be worth checking what the thermal or TDP, total watts, or thermal design, or whatever the wattage rating is for this processor, and finding maybe the fastest one that has the same rating so that you're not overloading the heatsink. But I think, this is quite a big setup, quite a big fan, quite a lot of grills, and so you could look at what other Dell Optiplex 9010 all-in-one systems there are out there and what processor options there were, and then you can sort of work out what's most likely to work happily in here. So this is also screwed down, this fan. There's tape here, so if I pull this away, this will probably rip this tape, and we don't really want that because we want the air to flow across here. And then one more screw here. Oh, and another one here. So it's quite a well-built system. Having an 80 plus gold power supply is quite nice. And like, yeah, they're not tiny screws, and they're not tiny laptop screws, which makes things easier to deal with. And this is a heatsink, surprisingly quite dust free. Yeah, that's not entirely dried up, the thermal paste, but we may as well replace it while we're here. Here's a video cable going up to the screen, so these are the kind of the delicate things that you do not want to break, otherwise you'll have to order a replacement. And I'll zoom into that. That's the part number for the cable for the screen. And we may as well have a look at the processor, see how easy it is to remove this. It's just a standard thing you get in normal PCs. Take that out, etc. Replace that. And I'll clean the thermal paste now and put some fresh stuff on. Everybody loves watching people put thermal paste on processors, don't they? It shouldn't matter too much. On this one, that's fairly low power processor. And there's these like foam things on the heatsink that are kind of floating around, and I'm trying to remember where they were. I'm guessing they were stuck down various places. And this is just going to be me putting all the screws back in, really, from this point on. Trying to follow my steps backwards. We get these to line up. Okay, so that's screwed in. I think I've got the foam in the right place. And I'll put in some more memory while I'm here, because we may as well have 8 GB in the system, because I do have a bunch of spare that I managed to pick up from various faulty laptops that I couldn't repair. And then I'll also put in an SSD. I managed to get about 4 of these 120 gig SSDs off eBay for about £6.25 each. So I got about 4 of those, and yeah, this is the sort of tricky bit of trying to line this up through this cage, so that I can then plug this into this. And there's not a massive amount of wiggle room. If I was putting a normal hard drive in here, it would just slot right into position, basically. Surely there's got to be a better way of doing this. This is a real pain in the behind. Okay, that's in. Can slide in there, and really I should kind of try and find something to hold that in place so it doesn't wobble around. guess that seems okay for now, and I'm just going to put a load more screws in. This is the 4 screws for the heatsink fan. Or was it 3? No, 4. Next, there was this cover, and there were 4 screws for this, and it's sort of okay. It's got some little tab there that it has to kind of slide over, I think. Yeah. There's a little tab there, and there's the same on the back there. And then there are just, I think, 4 screws for this as well. I've changed chairs, so I've got a slightly squeaky chair. Not as squeaky as the one I originally had, but not as quiet as the one I had or was using before this one. It's funny how much difference a squeaky chair makes. So we can put the RAM cover back on, and this should, I think, go this way round. Kind of just clips on like that. And then we've got the bracket for the stand. So we want these to be neatly down, and this, oh, there's a screw for the hard drive bracket as well, don't forget that. But generally these are quite neat systems. I mean, this is very well built, it's quite solid. Could be quite useful, but I think these systems are kind of a little bit overkill maybe. These cables should tuck into the little lip behind this hard drive bracket so they don't get squashed by this cage. Maybe these power cables don't need to go in there. Okay. So yeah, these systems kind of are quite neat. These are the M4 screws, the bigger ones. But well, you can, you know, replace the RAM, processor, all sorts of components on here. The fact that it's built into the screen is almost like making it more difficult. It makes it more difficult to repair, basically, doesn't it? If you've got a separate computer and a separate monitor, if your monitor breaks, you replace the monitor. If your computer breaks, you fix the computer. But with this system, I could have accidentally damaged that cable going to the monitor, or damaged something else with this monitor whilst doing this, and ended up with a broken screen and then a computer built into the back of it. So yeah, it makes it all the more difficult to repair these systems, like laptops, I suppose. Laptops have built-in screens, and therefore they're a little bit more, there's more to go wrong, isn't there? Screens are kind of easy to break if you're not careful. And there's a couple of M4 screws back here as well. Because this has been taken apart by someone else previously, I don't know if all the screws are here. They might have rushed when they were taking the hard drives out and forgot to put some of the screws back in. So I don't think I've got all the screws for this, but I'll try and put in as many as possible. So there we go. There are these two little screws. Where were they? Not entirely sure. I might have to look back in the video to see where I took these out from. Oh well. It's not going to matter too much, I suppose. And then I think we can put the back on. And let's sort of put this back together, power it on, and see if we were successful in both upgrading the memory and applying fresh thermal paste and clearing the CMOS password. Okay, it's easier if you put the top in first and then click the rest into place. Okay. I'm just going to put this on so that I can stand it back up. Okay, moment of truth. It says the amount of system memory has changed. So system information, we've got 8 gig now, running in dual channel, which is great. And did we clear the password? No, we didn't. That's unfortunate. I think what I did wrong was I think you need to move that jumper, switch it on, etc., and then switch it off, and move that jumper around while you're switching it on and off. But I can also unlock this because I know what the password is. But also you can, as someone who left a comment, very helpful, thank you, on my previous video about this, he was able to find out the password to use based on the system number. So there must be software out there, probably, Dell software, that lets you get the kind of passwords you need. Okay, so we've got the system. I'll put Windows on it and we'll go into Windows and we'll just have a quick look around. Okay, we're in Windows 10. You can see there's like a few marks on this screen where there's pressure points, although I could give it a clean and see if that helps. But yeah, these look kind of like pressure points on this screen. I tried installing Windows 11 with a USB that starts with Windows 10 and then switches to Windows 11, I think. Or I don't know what it is really. It's just some USB I had around and it didn't really work. I tried it a couple of times, it didn't work. But Windows 10 installed perfectly. So let's just have a quick look at, have we got graphics drivers? Probably not. No, we've not got the display graphics driver, so I'll connect it to the internet, update the drivers, and then we should be sorted really. The sound is working, it's pretty loud. And you can see here, this is the power that it's using. So 37 watts at the moment on idle. But that's actually, that includes the screen. You know, there's one power cable for the whole system, and that includes the screen. There's some buttons on the side here that I'm not sure what they do. Maybe there's some software that needs to be installed. But I'll connect to the internet and get some drivers installed. The power supply in it is 200 watts, and at the end of the video I'll show you clearing the password with the jumper on one of these machines. Okay, so we've got crystal disk info. This is running at SATA 3, this drive. Got Wi-Fi doing some updates. Got crystal disk mark here. The read speed's good, write speed's not so good, but it might be doing something. This is CPU Z. Scores here. And we've got temperatures max 55 and lowest 33, so that's fine. And yeah, this seems to be running quite well. On idle, it's about 45 watts. Let's do a stress, and we'll see the watts go up to about 66. So again, not too high, and a working system. So yeah, just need to put some more screws in it, and this will be good for someone to use as a PC. It's considering all I needed to do was add a little bit of RAM to bump it up to 8 gigabytes. I had that lying around, probably got it for free at some point. Put in an SSD that cost me about £6, install Windows 10, and it's a working system. Yes, there are issues with Windows 10 and updates in the future. So perhaps I should be thinking about putting Windows 11 on, or different versions of Windows 10 with the long-term service thingy. But yeah, for now, it's looking pretty good. Oh, I'm still stressing the CPU, so I'll stop that. I can hear the fans sort of speeding up a little bit. Looks like it might be about to install the display drivers, possibly. But I'll run some more tests on this before, you know, giving it to anyone, or, you know, seeing if anyone wants this system. But yeah, it's kind of neat. The color's quite good. I don't know if you can really see that. Yeah, you can sort of see these pressure marks. If you ignore them, it's great. It's fine. Let's have a quick look on YouTube and have a little quick look at playback, although I still don't have the video drivers installed, but we can see, you know, what it's like anyway. I've got a really slow little Wi-Fi dongle here. I really need to upgrade this. It's basically having to compete with my laptop with a good Wi-Fi connection, and I've got another Wi-Fi USB stick that's like got a really long antenna, so it's competing with that, and this basically can't compete with these other Wi-Fi devices. So yeah, this is a kind of means my Wi-Fi is super slow with this. So yeah, at some point I'll upgrade to a longer Wi-Fi adapter, but yeah, I'm gonna just leave this on, basically updating itself, and I'll show you how to reset the BIOS password. And you're going to want to move this password jumper over to CMOS clear. That will clear the CMOS. Leave that for about 10 seconds. Then remove this jumper completely. Put it to one side. And what you'll want to do is power it on, and you'll get this message saying that it has been hardware jumper has removed the password, so it's reset the password. you can now switch it off again and put the jumper back on. So we're putting this blue jumper back on the password jumper bit there. So you can see that. And if we go into the BIOS, we can now see that they were grayed out, they're not grayed out anymore. And we've been able to clear the password in the BIOS. So there we go, there's our Dell Optiplex all-in-one, and seems fine, seems to be working well. Still waiting for the drivers to download. It's got this weird, did you see that? There was a little bit of a glitch. Don't know whether that's the drivers or the lack of drivers, or if there's a problem with the monitor. That does look like a kind of monitor-ish problem, which will be those fragile cables on the inside. Yeah, it keeps doing that, doesn't it? That's a real shame. Hopefully they're not all like this, because yeah, that there's not something I'm gonna necessarily want to spend money fixing. But I suppose you could put if that screen completely breaks, you could put another monitor in front of it, connect this PC up to another system, maybe even take the PC parts out of this, but I don't know, then it starts getting a little bit messy, a little bit janky, and you know, not the greatest. But this is just the first one really that I've properly had a look at sorting through, and maybe the others will be better. But if you've got this far, thanks for watching. You got the reward of seeing my cat in the video by coming to the end of the video, and I'm just gonna put up the names of the channel members that I'm thanking. You can subscribe, you can join the channel, you can send me a super thanks, you can buy me a coffee, you can see the links in the description. You might find some interesting things, and check out my other channel. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.